Hey guys, it's Drew here, and I'm here to make a tag today, which is going to be called the Deck Takeover Tag. So I'm not sure if it exists, but I am going to make it today because I just got inspired to do it. So there will be 5 questions, and it's kind of arose from some discussions about particular decks. Um, Sort of, what was really in my peripheral vision, what's been um, not wanting to leave my side, basically. And so I want to talk about the Green Witch. And the Green Witch is one of those decks that I picked up in the hype. I let the hype die down a little bit. I didn't get to work with it straight away because I usually tend to buy decks and they all come at once, and then I spend like the next couple of months sort of working through them and getting to know them. And I almost was about to give it away because just looking at it really didn't appeal to me that much. I had been working with a lot of darker decks, including like the Vampire Tarot by Ian Daniels, and sort of more grey, dark in tone decks. So it was very bright looking, very um, I guess it's a deck that I wouldn't have usually picked up per se, but I did want to buy it because I was really attracted to the principle of it being like a very witch based deck. And I mean, I've been on my path for 3 years now consciously, and I've had a lot of decks in the past. And I recently got the Everyday Witch Tarot, which I like as well. But this one seemed to, once I actually started picking up, really connect with me quite well. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about it as I go through the questions, and hopefully you guys were interested in doing a tag. If not, that's cool. Just thought I'd create it, put it out there, and see how we go. Okay, so the first question is the deck that has been taking over your practice right now. Well, obviously mine has been the Green Witch. So I'll show you a couple of cards as well as I talk through it as well. I recently met up with somebody named Marsha who sold me a Lenormand deck, and I'm sorry about the quality of my camera. And she also made a comment that the Green Witch kind of felt like to her like a past life deck, as in, this is would have been what represented her past life, and I can't really agree with that. It's it takes a lot of different eras and joins them together, and but yet it still has a modern day feel. And one of the things that I really, really love about this deck is the scenery. I never really thought much about scenery in cards until this year. I've always gone for the symbols and objects and the archetypes. And um, what I love about this deck too is that it does bring in plants, flowers, the scenery, and animals as well. And all of these things were coming up to the surface anyway for me. So when I actually really got to start working with it, it was a deck that I didn't have in my collection. I didn't have a deck that went into that much detail, was this atmospheric, and really delved into different aspects and ages as well. I love that it has so many different ranges of ages from, childhood to adulthood too, because, we go through those stages internally as well as externally. And it's got a really good balance of male and female energy. So it just really drew me in. And so the next question is favorite cards. So I know favorites are always difficult, but I thought when I was going through them, because I actually haven't seen a lot of the cards either, I generally don't tend to spend a lot of time looking through each card when I get a deck. I like the surprise of doing spreads and then getting to know the cards as I go along. So like, I'd probably say at least 50 out of the cards I've rarely seen, and that excites me too because it gives me an opportunity to look at different ways to use deck as well. But these are the cards that really have come up quite often for me, quite a lot in the spreads that I've done, and that I absolutely love, that almost brought me to tears when I saw them, which is kind of rare on a deck, but there's something about these two images that really spoke about my path, both as a witch and as just a general being in this lifetime too. So there was a page of Athames, which is a page of swords, and she's a young girl in a forest. She's got the moon, she's got the owl for wisdom, and she's got an open book and a candle, and she's really holding up her sword to the moon, to the trees, to the spirits, to the cosmos, and it really looks like a powerful stance. Like she looks like she's confident, and she looks like she's also drawing down the energy of the cosmos as well, and learning and practicing and sharpening those skills even at an early age. And that kind of reminds me a lot of myself as an artist. I started off really early in my life writing, and it's never left me. Same with art and drawing, making up stories through pictures, collage, all those kind of things. Same with learning as well. Like I've always had a thirst for learning. So when this card turned up, it was in relation to a particular astral area that I've been building up for the past couple of months, and it really grounded me in the fact that this place has been a huge part of my existence, even if it's never been on the in my vision, but now it's coming into my vision, and it's going to be an incredible place moving forward. And I also pulled out the Three of Athames because it represents a cottage that's kind of broken down. Again, I have another astral place that I go to as well, that I've been building up for a couple of years, and it is a cottage, and it is very well taken care of because I take care of it a lot. But it has presented itself in my own personal life as well. Slowly, I've been building and moving towards having that cottage environment. Particularly the place I'm living at now still has a really good garden, but it also talks about the inner, the psychological garden, the psychological cottage, and the rooms that need repairing. And a common theme throughout my life has been the houses I've lived in inside, and the rooms that have been broken down. A lot of my dreams feature rooms that I haven't found, rooms that are in disrepair, rooms that are haunted. So pulling this card, um, she feels like, to me, like she's got all the tools in her bag. She's ready to do this. She's got the light to illuminate the darkness. She's got a flowing river and water, the swan for transformation, and she's also got water over here. So the well is running. Like she's well supported, she's well nourished. She's worked really hard to build this place, or to create enough skills to be able to handle this remake over. And as I'm starting to work on nonfiction writing and writing the essays of my history and my past, it really has become one of my favorite cards, and I often use it for magic work as well. I will say as well that the Nine of Chalices, but I'll come back to this card. Oh my lord. So the next question is least favorite card. Now, the only reason I find this is the least favorite card in the whole deck is because the Six of Swords, and I don't know what it is about swords, but the Six of Swords are an important suit to me because, being a writer, being intellectually based, learning, all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to take this for tea. It's one of the elements aside from water that probably holds the most sway in my spreads, but it just doesn't appeal to me. The Six of Swords is an important card for me. It's a card of transitioning between two stages, two realms, two levels. I am very much in love with the Greek myth with Chiron, who is the ferryman for Hades. I have done a lot of stories, done a lot of magical workings with um, the ferryman and the Six of Swords. So this is not the best interpretation of this card for me, but I can see it has its purpose, um, and it'd be interesting to see what it reveals when it comes up for me. I mean, I like the landscape around it. I think it's very country. It's very much, if I actually was honest, where I grew up. I grew up in country towns around Australia. It's very dry, barren paddock, lots of rivers, and I guess rivers have been a real big part of my life as well. So I guess in a way it does represent a lot, but visually speaking, it doesn't really hold any interest. Okay, so four. A magical memory you have made bonding with the deck. So we'll go back to the Nine of Chalices. So I use this card to start my journey with creating or reconnecting with a particular part in the astral realm, which I spoke about before. It also connected me to using herbs that I already could easily access, and it also got me out in the garden seeing that there was already these herbs in the garden as well. So that kind of pushed some of my plans into action. But this is the wish card, and I love the representation of this as a wish card because to me it also signifies a manifestation. And I have had so many magical memories with this card in manifesting. Um, I started two recent projects that were very successful spells using this card and using bay leaf, which is the card associated with it. And I also had I guess, a pre-scene into what was coming when a ladybug landed on my bag a couple of days before I drew this card. And it was a time I was spending as well, sort of dealing with a lot of grief work, and I'd spent the day out, and it kind of followed me out of the train door as well. So it was a very grounding card. It has been a very grounding card. It is something that I pull out when I know that I need to sort of work on my intention setting. And this is another thing I love about these cards. It's something that was missing in the Spellcasters Tarot, and I did have that deck and I gave it away because it missed the mark for me. This is not necessarily a deck for spellcasting, but because it does have so many associations, it really gives you a good idea about um, how you can bring these energies, these images into reality and into your projects and creativity. It's created that momentum in my magic practice. It's created that momentum in my writing practice as well. And I think that is why I have bonded with it so well. Even this small amount of images that I have used, it's brought me out of places of shadow and places of, I guess, closet like symptoms of being a witch, and sort of pushed me to do things like spell work because I was so determined not to be one of those witches, resistant towards, picking up those spell books. And there's nothing wrong with spell books at all. There's a couple I've been interested in buying now, but I didn't want my practice to just be about that. I wanted to build it from the ground up, and this card has represented recently the amount of work I have done and am really proud of manifesting the things in my life that have meaning for me and have meaning for other people as well. So the wish card is always a great card, and I think also too, I have trouble asking for what I want. I have trouble with consent. I have trouble with accepting that there's things that I wish for, because I've spent so much of my life in that state of wish fulfillment, never sort of really getting anywhere, never getting that momentum. So it's such a sacred card to me, and it's one that I will be working with for a very long time. And can we just love the fire too? I feel like this card has such amazing energy. I could literally just talk about this card all day, but I won't. And so the next question is, where next? So where do you see, your relationship going next? And it sort of takes me back to the videos I used to make with Top Deck Tuesday, in so much as like looking at the relationship of the deck, where you think it's going to go next, or where you're planning on going next. I'm planning on doing a spread tonight, and I basically use this deck like every day. I cannot go a day without not using it. And that's saying something for me because I have a lot of decks that I love and would use every day. But I love its energy. It's so powerful and potent. I know you guys know what I mean when you have that deck where it's like one of your soul decks. And I think what's next for me, aside from doing a couple of spreads, is probably going through the cards and doing some short story writing around it. As I mentioned, I haven't really looked at most of the cards, so it would be really interesting to do some meditation or some like story writing and prompt writing with them and really get to know them deeper. I think eventually I'll end up getting a second copy as well, one that I can take around with me everywhere and one that I can have at home so that it doesn't get too damaged. And yeah, this card seems to be popping up all over the place. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this tag. I would love to see some of you do it, and I'll leave the questions below, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.